Hey everybody, Marissa here. I'm from Listening First Yoga. I am here at Steadfast and True Yoga in Nashville, which is one of the studios that hosts our trauma sensitive yoga groups and our individual sessions. What I have for you today is a short trauma sensitive yoga practice for the hips and the lower body. So if you'd like to join along in this practice, this is going to be a mat-based practice. You'll see my mat right back here behind me. I have got a blanket for this practice and I have a couple of blocks. If you don't have blocks at home, but you have like or thicker books that you can kind of place underneath your hands or your forearms, those are great to have. You don't need those things to do this practice. And if you find benefit from this practice, I'll invite you to either visit our website or find our Venmo at Listening for Yoga. Any donations are made thanks to these online videos go toward paying scholarships for folks who are interested in therapeutic yoga for trauma survivors. So if you'd like, we'll go ahead and get started with our practice, and feel free to practice whatever shapes that feel good or interesting for your body. Feel free to leave out anything that doesn't, and we'll go ahead and begin. So I'm going to move back to my mat. All right, so we'll start this practice today seated. And you can really come to sit in any way that works for you. So you might sit cross-legged. You might choose to sit more kneeling and sitting back on your feet. There might be another way that you'd like to sit. You're welcome to find a way to sit that works for you. And then you might take a moment to kind of arrive at your practice. So that might mean that you look around the space that you're in, just kind of orienting to your surroundings. Maybe you listen for any sounds that you hear in the room or outside the room. Maybe you notice the temperature of air. And then when you feel ready, you might start to let your attention draw inward. So maybe moving from outside toward inside. Maybe noticing the surface that you're sitting on. You might notice the connection of your seat to the surface that you're sitting on. Maybe you notice sensation in your body. You could bring a little movement into your body, or you might stay with stillness. If it's comfortable with you, you might notice your breath, not needing to change anything about how you're breathing, but maybe finding the rhythm of your breath. When you inhale and when you exhale. If you'd like to set an intention for your practice, you're welcome to call that forward. Hands could stay where they are. They might rest somewhere on your body. And then if you'd like to join in some movement, you could have your eyes opened or closed. And an option if you'd like to kind of sway from side to side in your seat. So you might choose to sway from side to side in your seat. That's one option. Another option might be to sway forward and back in your seat. So you can choose. Maybe you want to sway forward and back, or maybe you want to sway from side to side. You could also choose stillness. So you might stay that you found, or another option is to combine these movements into a circle, maybe working your shoulders in a circle around your seat. And if you're choosing to make these movements, you can choose the size of your movements. You can also choose the speed of your movements. So you might be going faster or slower than me. You might be moving bigger or smaller than me. If you're making circles, there might be a point that you want to pause and take your circles the opposite direction. You're welcome to do that. And if you were noticing that connection of your seat to the surface that you're sitting on, if you're moving, maybe you notice those connection points shifting with you. You might stay with this, or if you'd like, you can come back to what feels like the center of your seat, and maybe you lean back slightly so you can make this kind of rounded shape with your spine. Your head might drop. You might stay here. You might lean forward. Maybe you want to reach the crown of your head up toward the ceiling, or maybe you want to lift your collarbones. You could stay here, or you might move back and forth between these places, maybe rounding in your spine, maybe lifting through your collarbones. Maybe lingering, or maybe moving back and forth in between. You might notice sensation along the back line of your body, or perhaps along the front line of your body. It's also possible that you don't notice a lot of sensation here. This is your practice. So you might stay with this, or if you'd like, you could find what feels like the center, and you might turn and take a twist toward one side. So one hand could come behind you, your other hand might rest anywhere on your opposite leg. If you'd like, you could add a little breath to your twist. You might stay here, or when you feel ready, you could release your twist, passing back through center. Option to turn and twist yourself the other way. So your other hand might come behind you, your opposite hand might rest anywhere on your opposite leg. If you'd like, you could add a little breath to your twist. You might stay here, or when you feel ready, you could come back toward the center. An option to float your arms up toward the ceiling any amount. So you can choose how high you lift your arms. You could keep your arms lifted, or you could lift and lower a few times. You're welcome to stay with this. Or the next time your arms, an option to bring yourself forward into any amount of forward fold. So your hands might come out in front of you to support you, or you could bring your forearms toward the mat. You could round forward. A third option would be to kind of lift and lower, finding your own rhythm. So you're welcome to come out of this shape at any time, or you might be here maybe for 3 more counts, maybe for 2 more counts, maybe for 1 more count. If you'd like, you could bring yourself back up towards seated. And if you're sitting with your legs crossed, maybe you switch the cross, or maybe you change the arrangement of your legs. You could also keep them exactly the same. And then option to find that sway from side to side 1 more time. Or maybe option to find that leaning forward and back. You could lean yourself forward and back. Or if you'd like, you could find your circles, maybe working your shoulders in circles around your seat. If you're making your circles, there might be a point that you pause and take in the opposite direction. You're welcome to try that. And if you change the arrangement of your legs, maybe notice if this movement feels different with your legs arranged a different way. It might or it might not for you. Welcome to stay with this, or if you'd like, you can come back toward the center, and maybe 1 more time, an option to kind of lift your arms up any amount. You might notice sensation in the sides of your body as you do this, or maybe in your arms. You could keep them lifted, or you could lift and lower. If you'd like, you could notice your breath. You're welcome to stay with this. So the next time your arms come down, you might bring them forward into any amount of forward fold. So your hands might come out in front of you. They could support your torso, or you could be more rounded forward. Maybe you choose to lift and lower. It's possible that you notice sensation in your lower back, or maybe in your legs or your hips. You're welcome to come out at any time, or you might be here maybe for 3, maybe for 2, and maybe for 1. When you're ready, you could bring yourself back toward the center. And then an option, if you choose, to kind of rearrange yourself to come toward a tabletop, which is coming onto hands and shins. And if you'd like, you could open up a blanket if you want to provide a little bit of padding for your knees and lower legs. So an option to find your hands maybe about under your shoulders, knees maybe under your hips. Your hands could be flat, or maybe you want to come up onto knuckles. You could also find blocks or something like blocks to place your hands on those, or you could even bring your forearms down. So these are lots of options here in this shape. And then if you'd like, maybe you want to kind of move your lower body side to side here. Or maybe you want to make some circles, moving your lower body in a circle around your knees. You could stay with this, or if you'd like, you could extend one leg back. So you can choose which leg. Or maybe you want to press your heel toward the wall behind you. You might find kind of a lengthening sensation in the back of your leg. It's also possible you don't feel sensation here. And you might stay here. If you'd like, you could kind of rock yourself a little bit forward and a little bit back. Or maybe you choose stillness. Or another option is to pick up your extended leg and bring it over toward the side. So it might come the opposite corner of your mat. Maybe it comes off your mat. You could look toward your leg if you'd like. This might move sensation into the side of your body. Or maybe you look forward. Maybe you want to kind of move yourself a little bit forward and back here. So you're welcome to stay here, or if you'd like, you could bring your leg back behind you if it moved. And then option to bend your knee and bring the sole of your foot up toward the sky. And so you could stay here. Maybe you bend and extend in your leg. Or maybe you want to keep your knee bent and bring it in toward you. It might come toward your elbow or maybe between your arms. And then you could extend it back. So maybe you're bending and extending your leg. Maybe you're bringing your knee in and then bringing it back. You could stay with this movement if you choose, or if you'd like, you could step your foot to the outside of your hand. And so you might come toward this kind of lunging shape. Now you might keep your knee exactly where it is, your back knee. You can always tuck your toes and kind of adjust where you have your knee. You might stay with your hands on the mat. Maybe you've got your hands on blocks. Maybe you want to kind of turn your block upright a little bit so you can come more upright. So you might notice some sensation here, maybe in the front of your back leg or in the inside of your front leg. There might be a little bit of movement here. You might kind of move yourself forward and back. And depending on the size of your movement forward and back, your front leg might extend any amount. So an option maybe to bring a little bit of movement into your lunge, or maybe to linger. You could stay with this, or if you'd like, with your knee bent, you could kind of move your hand or your block over toward the other side. And maybe you want to turn your toes or your foot or your knee a little bit over toward the side. And if you'd like, you could lean and look at your leg. So there might be little micro movements here. Maybe you linger here. You might stay right where you are. Or another option is to kind of bring yourself back down toward the mat. And maybe you want to turn your toes and your knee back forward if they moved. And then if you'd like, you could wander any amount over toward the side. And if you're using a block, it could come with you. And there might be a point where you want to pivot your back foot back behind you so that you turn to face the side of your mat. Now your front knee could stay bent, or you could pivot your back heel back behind you and straighten your front leg. Same thing here. There might be a little bit of movement forward and back. Maybe you notice if there's sensation in the inner line of your leg, or maybe you notice your breath. So you're welcome to stay where you are. Or if you'd like, you could kind of bring your hands back toward the mat out in front of you. Maybe you wander yourself back toward the front, and you might turn your toes up toward the ceiling. Your back foot could pivot back behind you. You might find yourself with your leg extended. So again, you could have your hands up on something. Maybe you want to linger here, or if you want to rebend into your front knee, you could draw your heel back and put a bend into your knee. And if you'd like, you could find that bending and extending. So again, all of these shapes are optional. You can see if they seem like they're useful or interesting for your body, or if you'd rather do something else. So you're welcome to stay with this. Or when you feel ready, you could put a bend into your knee if your leg is more straight. And you might step your knee back underneath your hip. And maybe you want to sit back and sit upright. Or maybe you want to bring your body forward, bringing your seat toward your feet. And you might linger here, or you might find that you want to kind of lift and lower back toward your tabletop position and then sending your seat toward your feet. So in a moment, we'll have the option to make those shapes on the other side, or you might do the same side again. So if you'd like, you could kind of bring yourself up so that your hands might support you under your shoulders, knees might be under your hips. Reminder that you could always adjust how you have your hands. Maybe they're up on blocks, maybe you're up on knuckles. Then if you'd like, you could extend one leg back. So again, maybe it's the other leg, maybe you do the same side again, you can choose. You could press your heel toward the wall behind you. Or maybe you want to shift yourself a little bit forward and then press yourself a little bit back. It's possible that you notice sensation in the back of your leg. Also possible that you don't notice a lot of sensation here. You can see what's true for you. So you could stay with this, or you could pick up your leg and bring it toward the other side of your mat. It may come off your mat. Maybe you want to look toward your foot. You could press your heel toward the wall behind you. Or maybe you want to look forward. Same thing. You could shift yourself forward and back, or you might choose to linger in the shape. Maybe you notice your breath. You could stay with this, or when you feel ready, if your leg moved toward this side, you could bring it back behind you. And then an option to bend your knee and point the sole of your foot up toward the ceiling. And then if you'd like, you could bend and extend your leg. That's one option. Or you might choose to keep your knee bent and bring it comes toward your elbow or between your arms. Then you could bring it back. So maybe moving your knee forward and back, or maybe bending and extending through your leg. You can choose. You could stay with this, or if you'd like, you could step your foot around outside of your hand to come toward your lunge. And again, you could always adjust the placement of your back knee by tucking your toe and adjusting where you have your knee. If you need more padding under your knee, you can always kind of take the time to fold up your blanket a little bit more. Maybe you want to linger here in this lunge. Your hands might be on a block or a couple of blocks, so they might come toward the mat. If you'd like, you could turn your toes and your knee of your front leg over toward the side a little bit. This might increase the sensation that you might be noticing in the front or the inside of your front leg. But again, you can see what's true for your body. Maybe there's a little bit of forward and back movement. Depending on the amount of forward and back movement, your leg may straighten or it may stay bent. So you might stay with this. Or another option is to kind of bring your hand, or maybe your hand with a block, over toward the side so that you could turn your torso and kind of look toward your bent knee. So you might linger here. Or if you'd like, you could bring yourself kind of back toward the floor. And if your toes and your knee are kind of pointing toward the side, you could bring them back to face forward. And then if you'd like, you could walk yourself over toward the side of your mat. And you might find that you want to pivot your back foot back behind you. So if you choose, you could pivot your back foot back behind you. I'm going to rearrange myself a little bit on my mat so that it's easier for you to see me. So maybe pivoting your back foot back behind you. Maybe you want to turn your heel so that you could straighten your leg. So same thing, you might have some blocks underneath your hands. Maybe there's a little bit of forward and back movement here. Your toes could point up toward the ceiling, or they could stay pointing forward. And you might notice sensation here in the inner line of your extended leg. All right, so you're welcome to stay here. Or if you choose, you could start to walk yourself back toward your extended leg, and your back foot might pivot back behind you. And so you might find yourself with your leg extended. Your toes could point up toward the ceiling. So you might linger here. You might notice sensation in the back of your leg. Or if you'd like, you could draw your heel back slightly so that you could bend into your front knee. And same thing, you might bend and extend here, or you might linger in a shape. So you're welcome to stay with this. Or if you'd like, when you're ready, you could put a bend back into your leg if it's straight, and you could step your knee back underneath your hip. So maybe you come to sit upright, or maybe you want to bring your body forward, bringing your seat toward your feet with your arms out in front of you. And you could linger in a shape, or you might choose to kind of lift and lower. Maybe you notice sensation that might be present in the back line of your body, or maybe you notice your breath. So you're welcome to stay here. Or when you feel ready, if you're kind of folded forward, you might bring yourself to sit upright. And then you could bring your hands off to one side, sit your seat off to one side, and bring your legs out in. So with your legs out in front of you, you could have your legs more straight out in front of you, or you could widen your legs. You could also take a blanket and fold it up a couple of times to place underneath your legs. And if you'd like, you could flip your arms up toward the ceiling any amount. You could keep your arms lifted, or you might choose to lift and lower your arm. You might stay with this movement if it's feeling really interesting or useful to you. Or if you'd like, you could bring yourself forward into any amount of forward fold. And so it might be that your hands rest on your legs. You could also come between your legs. Maybe you have a block that you want to rest your hands on. Or you might choose to lift and lower here. So you might notice sensation in the backs of your legs and maybe in the back line of your body. Also possible that you don't notice a lot of sensation here. You're welcome to come out of this shape at any time. You might be here maybe for 3, maybe for 2, and maybe for 1. When you're ready, if you choose, you might bring yourself up towards seated. And then an option, if you'd like, to bring the soles of your feet toward each other. Your knees might come a little bit wider. So you could have your feet up on your blanket, or you could sit on your blanket. That's another option. You might have your feet out in front of you, so kind of this wider diamond shape, or you might bring your feet in closer. You can choose. If you'd like, you could reach the crown of your head up toward the ceiling. That's one option. Or you might choose to lean a little bit forward. And you could linger in a shape here, or you might lift and lower in your shape. So you can choose if you want stillness or if you want a little bit of movement. So you're welcome to come out of this shape at any time, or you might be here maybe for 3 more counts, maybe for 2 more counts, maybe for 1 more count. When you're ready, you could bring yourself up towards seated if you took a fold. And then you might lean back slightly so you can use your hands to assist your knees in coming back toward each other, assist your feet in coming back toward the mat. If you're sitting up on something, you could use your hands to carefully move off of it. And if you'd like, you could widen your feet a bit and maybe you windshield wiper your legs back and forth. So an option if you'd like to windshield wiper your legs back and forth. And this might be kind of a smaller movement, or maybe you come all the way onto one hip and all the way onto the other. And you might see if you have space behind you to lie down. And if you need more space, you can use your windshield wipers to kind of inch yourself forward toward the front of the mat, so that if you choose to come to lie down, you have room behind you. Once you're ready, you could bring both feet toward the mat, and maybe you slowly lower yourself down onto your back. So you could hold your legs as you lower down, or you could let your arms hover. You might feel the muscles of your core working to kind of control your lower down to the mat. Once you come toward the mat, you might have your knees bent with your feet on the mat, or you might choose to reach your legs long. You could take a moment, maybe you rest your hands on your body, or maybe your hands come by your sides. Maybe there's a little bit of movement in your legs, or maybe you choose stillness. So you're welcome to stay where you are. Or if you'd like, you could kind of place your feet maybe a little bit closer toward your hips. So you could bend your knees, you might place your feet on the mat. And then if you choose, you could reach one leg up toward the sun. So an option if you'd like to reach one leg up toward the ceiling. And maybe you want to point and flex your foot. That's one option. Or maybe you want to circle your ankle. That's another option. If you're circling your ankle, there might be a point that you pause and circle your ankle the other way. So you could stay with this, or if you'd like, you could hold on to the back of your leg. You might draw it toward you any amount. Maybe you want to point your toes toward your face, or maybe your toes kind of stay a little bit more neutral. You could stay here, or you could release the hold of your leg. You could bend your knee, and you might cross your ankle over your opposite knee thigh. So that junction of your knee and your thigh, your ankle might come to rest there. You might find this figure four shape with your legs. Maybe you want to rock your legs from side to side. That's one option. Or another option is to pick your legs up and draw them towards you any amount. And if you wanted to take your hands and reach to hold on to the back of your leg, you could. If you draw your legs in closer towards you, you might notice more sensation in your hips, maybe the outside of the hip of your bent leg. Or if you'd like, you could kind of shift your legs toward one side or shift your legs toward the other side. And you can see if that changes what you feel. It may or may not. And a reminder that nothing has to happen. We don't have to accomplish anything specific in our yoga practice. We're just kind of putting ourselves in these shapes to see what it's like to be here. So you're welcome to stay here for longer. If you'd like to come out and you have your legs lifted, you could release the hold of your legs so that you could bring your foot back toward the mat. And then if you've got one ankle crossed over your opposite leg, you could extend your leg up toward the ceiling. And then you might bend your knee to lower your foot back down. If you want some movement back here in the center, you could kind of widen your feet, maybe windshield wiper your legs back and forth. Or maybe you kind of bring your knees in and open them up like little butterfly wings. And if you'd like, you could place both feet on the mat. And we'll have the option to make those shapes again. You could do the same side again, or you might do the second side. So you could choose one leg, reaching it up toward the ceiling. Maybe you want to point and flex your foot. That's one option. Or maybe you want to circle your ankle. If you circle your ankle, there might be a point that you pause and go the opposite direction. So you could stay with this. Or if you'd like, you could hold on anywhere on the back of your leg. Maybe you draw your leg towards you any amount. And you could point your toes toward your face, or you could let your toes be more neutral. Maybe you notice your breath, or maybe you notice sensation in the back of your leg. So you're welcome to stay here. Or if you'd like, you could release the hold of your leg. You could bend your knee, and you could cross your ankle over your opposite knee thigh junction. So kind of placing your ankle over your opposite knee thigh, you might find this figure four kind of shape with your legs. Now you might choose to keep your foot on the ground. Maybe you kind of sway your legs from side to side. Or if you'd like, you could kind of pick your legs up and you could draw them towards you any amount. And if you wanted to, you could kind of reach around and hold on to the back of your leg. Now, you might draw your legs as close as you want in towards you. You could also kind of experiment with shifting your legs a little bit side to side, just seeing if that changes anything about your experience. It may or it may not. Maybe you notice your breath, or maybe you notice the connection of your body to the ground. You're welcome to stay here for as long as you'd like. Or when you feel ready, you could release the hold of your leg. You could let your foot come back down toward the mat if you lifted it off. And if you've got your ankle crossed over your leg, you could reach your leg back up. And then you might bend your knee to place your foot back on the mat. Maybe you want to widen your feet and take your windshield wipers back and forth. Or maybe you want to kind of open and close your knees to find your butterfly wings. You could stay with this, or if you choose, you could draw your knees in. Maybe you want to wrap your arms around your legs, or maybe you want to let your knees come a little wider. You could hold your outsides of your knees with your hands, or even tuck your hands into your knees. Maybe you want to rock back and forth across your low back area. So you might stay with this, or if you'd like, at a certain point, you could drop your legs over toward one side, maybe finding a spinal twist one direction. Your opposite hand could rest on your opposite side, or it might open toward the side. Maybe you take some breaths here, or again, maybe you notice the connection of your body to the ground. So you might choose to linger in your twist for as long as you'd like. Or when you feel ready, you could bring yourself back towards center. Same thing, you could hold your legs, you could rock a little bit side to side if you choose. And then if you'd like, you could kind of let your legs fall the other way. And maybe twist the other direction. Maybe you want to rest your opposite hand on your side, or maybe you want to open it toward the side. You can choose. Maybe you notice your breath here, or maybe you notice the connection of your body to the ground. You might linger in your twist for as long as you'd like. When you feel ready, you could bring yourself back towards center. Maybe you want to draw your legs in. Maybe you want to rock a little bit side to side. Or another option is to bring the soles of your feet up toward the ceiling, allowing your knees to bend so you could hold your feet. You could rock back and forth here. You might check into your body and see if there are any other shapes or movements that you would like to make before closing your practice. So anything else that you need, you might want to extend a leg or two. You might want to bring your feet back toward the mat, finding any other movements that you would like. And then when you're ready, you might move yourself toward a shape. Maybe will allow you to take rest, or maybe will allow you to notice the effects of that practice on your mind or your body. So you might come to lie down on your back. Maybe you want to come back towards seated. Maybe you want to support yourself on your abdomen or on your side. Your resting shape is up to you. Once you find that shape, you might scan through your body, just noticing if any sensations are present. Maybe noticing if any thoughts or emotions are present. Maybe allowing space for whatever is there. So you're welcome to rest here for as long as you'd like. And as you do, maybe you find some gratitude for coming to your practice today, just as you are. Being here with you and your body, just as you are. I thank you for your practice, and I wish you peace.